Knowles on the News. Susan Knowles.
So did anybody expect any different outcome in Baltimore than that the DOJ would find that there was some racial profiling or some racial discrimination there by the police officers in Baltimore? You could have placed money on it that they would, and they certainly did. And I'm not saying that there's not, that the police department there is perfect and they haven't done things maybe incorrectly or something like that. I think in every profession, if you look long and hard enough, you're going to find what it is that you're looking for. And they spent 14 months delving into this police department at the request of their mayor. You remember her. They need, we've given them space to destroy that person. That's who I'm talking about. Nobody looked into her and any violations that she may have done, or the state's attorney, Miss Mosby. But we had 14 months to look into the police department and try to dig up dirt on them. And now what's going to happen? Well, I'll tell you what's going to happen. There's been a push where the Obama administration really wants to federalize the police forces all across the nation. And that's exactly what's going to happen here with Baltimore. They're going to be under scrutiny for about 5 years. Everything that they do is going to be questioned, put under a microscope. I mean, it's going to be, it'd be a nightmare for those people on the department. And it's going to cost Baltimore tons and tons of money because they're going to have to pay out the nose for these violations. People are going to come forward. Oh yeah, I was violated. Even though in the latest Freddie Gray, they found no one culpable in the police department, and they had all that waste of time, money, and effort. But yet it looks as though it's rampant somehow in the department because that's what the DOJ says. Now the DOJ, again, 14 months. Really long, thorough investigation, you can be assured. But we don't have time to look into Hillary's emails. It doesn't. Remember what Comey said from the FBI? It's not that she hasn't done anything wrong. We're just not going to prosecute her, right? And of course the DOJ, we're going to go along with whatever the FBI says that we should do. Well, Ms. DOJ, the FBI works for you. You got that a little bit backwards. But she doesn't have time to do that and investigate Hillary. But she does have time to sit in an airplane talking to Bill. The one who basically is under investigation for the Clinton Foundation, along with Hillary. I mean, they're both in the Clinton Foundation. And I'm not really sure how that investigation is going, or if there really is an investigation. There's been talk, at least, of an investigation. So she can sit there and give an appearance of impropriety as the DOJ, and that's perfectly okay. But the Baltimore police, and again, why didn't she spend 14 months looking into the behavior of the mayor of Baltimore, who wanted to give everybody space to destroy, or looking into Miss Mosby, the state's attorney, who said, oh man, this one's for you. We're going after these cops. In 14 months, were they part of your investigation, or was it just the police you were looking at? The other corruption didn't really matter. I think we all know what the answer to that is. I tell you, these people are just amazing. Our government and what they're doing is just getting worse and worse. And we sit by and we just kind of look at it and go, it's getting worse. And there's really nothing that's being done about it. The Congress isn't doing anything about it. Congress isn't looking into anything. What about the people that recently, what has there been? Something like, 4 people who were somehow connected to either the DNC or the Clintons in some way. I'm not accusing the Clintons of anything. Let me make that clear. But it just so happens, the reports I've read, in over 3 decades, and this is just the past 3 decades. It goes beyond that, but this is just the numbers from the past 3 decades, okay? 46 people over the past 3 decades that were connected in some way, somehow, directly, indirectly, whatever the case may be, to the Clintons, they're no longer with us. They've kind of just died. Some kind of questionably how they died. Others, who knows? But if that's not enough, we've had, I don't know, I think it's about 4 deaths recently in people that are in some way connected with the DNC or the Clintons in some respect. As you might recall, there was a top official who was set to testify. I think he was a former president or something of the UN General Assembly. And he, gosh darn it, he dropped, I guess, a barbell or something on his throat, and it crushed his throat, and he died. Now, others are saying, no, that's not really what happened. He had a heart attack, and he died. Okay. So he was all set to testify, and he's dead from whatever cause. And then there were, there was the other guy, now that the Julian Assange is coming out and saying, this is the guy from WikiLeaks, is saying, there was a guy that he didn't want to say that they were really working with him, but they really did kind of come out and say he was an informant. He was a young man who was murdered, and he was a data analyst, and I believe with the DNC, and he was in, I believe, D.C. walking around, and he was shot 2 times in the back while he was talking to his girlfriend. So whatever information he had, I don't know if WikiLeaks has it or if it just died with him, but he's gone. And then there were 2 people, Sean Lucas and Ricardo Villaba. It's Villaba. I don't know how you would pronounce his name, and I believe that's the correct spelling. They served the DNC with a fraud complaint on July 3rd, and they're dead. And then there was this other guy, Victor Thorne. He's an author who wrote 4 books on the Clintons. And they weren't great books. I mean, they weren't about, the Clintons are such great people, they're so nice. No, he really got into the nitty-gritty of the Clintons and their life. And it just so happened, to celebrate his birthday, his 54th birthday, he shot and killed himself. That's the story. That's what's being talked about in the news. And then there's an aide to Tim Kaine. Tim Kaine, who's running with Hillary. This guy worked for the DNC, named Joe Montano, and he happened to had a heart attack on July 25th, and he's dead. So I don't know. There's a moral of the story here. Either don't work for the Clintons if you want to stay alive. I think Bernie really understood that. Bernie understood that you need to go out there and do what you're told to do if you want to feel healthy and good about yourself, right? So he went out in the DNC. He sold out himself. He sold out his supporters because I think Bernie likes being here, and I think Bernie wants to be here a while longer. And he knew that it was good for his health to go out and just say what he was supposed to say. And again, I'm not drawing any conclusions. I'm just saying Bernie wanted to be healthy. So I guess we'll see how many more people sort of check out over the next couple of months because we have an election coming up in November. Hopefully they'll stick around and everybody will be healthy because we like healthy people. Now, I'm sure that you heard recently how Donald Trump came out and he talked about the Second Amendment in reference to Hillary Clinton. In case you didn't hear it, what he said was Hillary wants to essentially abolish the Second Amendment. And then he goes on and says, by the way, if she gets to pick her judges, nothing you can do, folks. Although the Second Amendment people, maybe there is, I don't know. Okay. I wrote this article on The Blaze. It's called, Can Donald Trump Be Taught Some New Tricks to Avoid the Dangerous Trap? I start out by talking about how Donald Trump, that old adage, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And I'm thinking, well, I don't really believe that. I think if you set your mind to it, you can do anything that you want to do. But I'm starting to have concerns about Donald Trump. Now, he's an old dog businessman, and and somebody who's been in reality TV. He's been doing that for a while. He's comfortable with it. He's an old dog, and there's nothing wrong with that label. It's not putting him down. He's just experienced. He's seasoned, and that's a good thing. But I think sometimes, being seasoned like that in one area, you may get very comfortable, and it doesn't play well out in the broader audience, the American public. And what I've seen, and I know you've seen this, whether you want to admit it or not, and I know all you people that are really staunch Trump supporters, you don't want to see this, but he has really stepped in it almost every single time that the Democrats, the progressive left, throws him a net. He jumps into the net, okay? Not to be saved, but to be caught in their snare. And he really needs to wise up about that, because they're setting these traps. What happened? I don't know if you remember this, but it was back a few months ago. And Obama started this thing after Trump talked about, I think it was in June of last year, or this past year, when he started talking about, the Muslims. So Obama immediately comes out and says, that dangerous Muslim ban of all Muslims. And Obama considered Trump then to be a dangerous man. And that's kind of where it started here, with Obama setting that tone. Trump is a dangerous man. And it was a theme. And it didn't start here. It started back in February. And believe it or not, Donald Trump, he's so well known in America, but he's also well known internationally, which may not surprise you at all. But there's a German website called Spiegel Online International. I think it's the old Der Spiegel, the German newspaper. And their headline back in February 2016 was, America's agitator. Donald Trump is the world's most dangerous man. Now get that. He's the world's most dangerous man. It's not Charles Manson. It's not John Wayne Gacy or whatever his name was, the guy who dressed up like a clown, a serial killer, and killed everybody. Not him. No. It's Donald Trump. Right? Donald Trump is the most dangerous man in the whole world. And I can think of other people that are no longer with us in foreign countries that the United States considered some of the most dangerous men. And like I said, they're no longer with us. But now Donald Trump somehow, a man who's never killed anybody, who's never harmed anybody physically at all that we know of, and yet he's the most dangerous man. Why? Because he says things, so that makes him, I guess, dangerous. And I don't think that Germany really appreciates our First Amendment rights, so perhaps that's why they think that his free speech is so dangerous. Now, I think what happens is also, we also have the media that we all know has a bias for Hillary Clinton, and they always have. And I think the one thing that Donald Trump, and people may disagree on this, he fell into the trap very early on when he thought the media was on his side. And again, Donald Trump is a very egotistical man. And if you don't believe that, or you don't like me saying that, well, I'm just being truthful with you. Now, some of that is necessary for him to do what he does. But he tends to see people the way he wants to see them. And so I think in the beginning, he really felt when he was getting all of that airtime by the media, he thought, right, these people are on my side. This is really great. I've got them in my pocket. Well, my opinion is that they were just setting him up. They wanted to kind of lure him in to make him think, hey, we're on your side, buddy. And all the time, they were probably laughing behind his back thinking, this guy is an idiot. And when it came time, when everybody on the left said go, they turned their cameras all on Hillary, although Hillary doesn't say anything other than what she's programmed to say. She doesn't answer questions outside of what she has in her speech. But when it was time to turn the cameras, they did, and it was time to go on the attack of Donald Trump, and that's what they've done. And they've had this theme. Germany, February 2016, Obama, June 2016. Dangerous man, dangerous. And then we have a media columnist for the New York Times, and what he said is, if you view a Trump presidency as something that's potentially dangerous, ... So again, here is this guy continuing to have that theme that Donald Trump is a dangerous man. And so what happens is Donald Trump comes out recently and starts talking about Hillary Clinton and how if she gets in, it's a loss for all of us, and she's going to get the judges that she wants, and then America is done, basically, and that there's nothing you can do about it except those people that are Second Amendment. Maybe there is something that you can do about it. Well, you can imply that what he was talking about is, those Second Amendment people with guns can go out and take Hillary out. Now, he says that's not what he meant. Whether he does mean it or not, whether it was a joke or not. And see, that's the one thing about Trump. I was raised on the East Coast. I understand New Yorkers. I get the attitude. I get how they joke. They can be cynical and sarcastic, and so can I. But sometimes, especially when you're doing something like he is doing, and that is running for the presidency of the United States, you can't do that at your free will. You have to understand that there are people out there who are going to want to take what you say and twist it to what they want it to mean. And the progressives are great at doing that. And he is getting caught up in that. Now, I honestly think that he was just kind of joking around. Again, the New York attitude, and he was joking around. And what happened was it got the better of him, because the media said, oh boy, here we go. This is what we've been waiting for. Let's jump on the bandwagon and let's get Trump again. Let's make him look like he's a dangerous man. And quickly, Hillary's campaign manager comes out and has to comment. And they do it on Twitter because, that's the most official way to do anything, right? Her account said, a person seeking to be the president of the United States should not suggest violence in any way. And, just get the hypocrisy of that, will you, just for a moment? Hillary Clinton is saying that, really? Let me just say Benghazi out loud. Let me say 46 people in the last 3 decades are no longer with us, and recently 4. Okay. Anyway, I digress for a second there. And then the campaign manager says, this is simple. What Trump is saying is dangerous. A person seeking to be the president of the United States should not suggest violence in any way. So I guess if maybe his candidate, you don't suggest it, you just, anyway. But there again, you see, it gave them an opportunity to make Trump look like a dangerous man. That's exactly what they want him to look like, and he once again fell into the trap. And I've had people, Trump supporters, tell me today, a couple of them, saying, yeah, but that's what we like about Trump. That's who he is, and if he doesn't do that, then he'll just be politically correct like everybody else. No. I'm not asking that he not that he conform and that he somehow has to be politically correct. I'm not saying that. I think you need, whoever you are as a candidate, you need to tell the truth, which, I don't know if Clinton or Trump are telling the truth all the time, but it's a truth that I guess as they see it. Whatever it is, you need to tell the truth. But you have to do things sometimes that are palatable, let's say, to those in the majority of the American public. If you don't, you know what happens? You end up losing. You know what? If you don't, you know what happens? You end up ticking people off, and they go over to another side. They jump and go over to the Clinton campaign, whatever the case may be. So if this was playing really well to the American public, he'd be ahead right now. Now, I'm not saying that I believe what they're saying out there in the polls. I don't, because I think it's all a lie, to be honest with you. I don't know what's the truth anymore as far as this election or most other things that the government, politicians, or anybody else like that has their hands in. But I think there would be at least one poll that would say that Donald Trump is way ahead. I mean, I do think the American public, for the majority of them, I do think they still like Trump. I do think that people, I've even talked to Trump supporters who are saying, he does step in it way too much, that he needs to stop doing that. And see, they're starting to really see that. They're saying, if you keep doing that, you're really only hurting us. And I'll tell you, he really does need to watch what he's doing. I mean, if you're really out there to win, and that's what you're trying to do, this is not the way to do it. And I don't understand why all along he didn't have campaign managers and a team around him that told him what he needed to do, that told him how the progressive left political machine works and how to avoid getting into these types of situations. Now, maybe they were just too inexperienced and they didn't know themselves. But, I mean, if you've got a lot of money and you can hire the best, then hire the best. Because I don't think anybody right now is really doing him any favors. Paul Manafort, he's not doing him any favors. He's really not. And it seems to be that others in the team, they're not helping. I don't know if they're trying to help him and he's not listening. Have no idea. But somebody better get their stuff together if you want to win. If you don't want to win, keep doing what you're doing, because you are really hurting the Republican Party and your own image. And a lot of people have given up on the GOP altogether. They don't really care what Trump's doing at this point. They could care less, because they're going to go and they're going to write in whomever they want, or they're going to vote third party. They're not going to vote for Trump, so it doesn't matter. But I'm looking at this as, well, you say you want to win, so what are you going to do? Because as we all know, as this dangerous theme has gotten started, it's going to keep going. And if it's not, Donald Trump's dangerous, then as Obama tried to start, Donald Trump is unfit, and then Donald Trump turns it back on Hillary, well, she's unfit. Well, a lot of people may be unfit, but it's who gets out there, who talks the loudest, and who gets something trending. That's what happens these days. That's what Twitter is all about, for God's sakes. Whatever's trending, whoever gets that started, everybody's going to hear that, and that's what everybody's going to believe. And Donald Trump, of all people, should know that, because he's the one that calls people by names and gets those things trending, like Lion Ted and Crooked Hillary. It's kind of coming back around to bite him now. But he should be kind of wise about what's happening. And I just believe that there's a couple of things that he's going to have to do. Because, as I said in my article, the Democratic political machine is playing him like a cheap fiddle, or as Trump might prefer, an expensive Stradivarius violin. But that's what they're doing. They're playing him like that. And he doesn't either acknowledge it, doesn't see it, whatever. I don't know. But these offhanded remarks that he's making, again, they're not resonating with the American public. It's not that he can't be direct. It's not that he can't be himself. You can do that. And it is what people love about Donald Trump. Those people that support him, it's exactly what they love about him. But there's a way to do that without being offensive, without implying things as they're accusing him of doing with his Second Amendment comment with Hillary Clinton. And I wanted to, not that he listens to people, right? Not that he's going to listen to me. But if you really want to win, there's a couple things that I said that he really needs to do. And I've spelled it out for him. So all he has to do is read the article. And if he wants to win, I really think I have the winning ticket here. Okay, so number one, he should stick to the policies he's offering the American people should he be elected. and just stay away from making personal remarks during the speech. You know, in the one that he had with Hillary Clinton in the Second Amendment, he was going along talking about how if she got her ability to pick the judges, there was nothing they could do, and it'd be all over for the United States. He should have left it right there. You know, don't make a snide remark or what you think is a comedic remark, whatever. Don't vary from the point that you're trying to make, because when you do, you get sidetracked, and you can bet that these Hillary people, the campaign manager, all of them are sitting there with their recorders and their pencils and paper ready to write down everything you say to spin it the way they want. But if you stay on course, then you're not going to give them the ability to do that. If you find that you're going off and you're being sidetracked, stop yourself, okay? Stop yourself. I think what he does is he really likes the applause. He likes the attention. He likes the accolades. So he plays up the crowd. And that's great, you know, if it's just you in the crowd. But it's not just you in the crowd. It goes out over the media to the White House and everybody else, and they hear it and they spin it. And I know you're saying, well, I don't care because this is why we like Trump, and you're wanting him to be too politically correct. And again, I'm saying, no, you don't have to be. It's not about political correctness. It's about staying focused on what matters. You know, and if you want to be politically incorrect some other time, you know, give a joke or two, well, I guess you're going to do that. And it does hurt him, I think, again, because he's a political public figure. Whether you want to believe that he's a political figure, he has now entered that arena, and he is a political figure. And it's okay to say, you know, the government is corrupt. That's one thing. But it's not okay to start talking about, you know, what that person looks like personally, or, you know, personal attacks, or making comments that can be like a Second Amendment that can be implied that you're going to hurt somebody. You know, you can't do that. Not and when you can. Number 2, adhere to the planned agenda for each speech as written and don't get sidetracked. It's kind of a repeat of the first, but even more. You know, you sit there with your team. You and your team decide what it is that you're going to say. And I'm not saying that the team needs to write these speeches for him. These have to be Donald Trump's words and Donald Trump's thoughts. Because, you know, when you have a president, that's what you want. You don't want a speech maker like we have now with Obama that basically tells him what to say on the teleprompter. Although I think Obama lately has gone off script because he just doesn't care anymore. He's going to say whatever. He doesn't care. So with Trump, when you've sat there and you've worked for hours on a speech, give your speech. Stay focused. Don't get sidetracked on babies that are crying in the audience. And see, even with the baby, and I know the mother has come out and said, no, he did, you know, he was joking or whatever. It didn't matter anything. Yes, but how many days have we been talking about the baby crying and the comments he made? Again, I think he was being sarcastic. I think he thought it was funny. And there's other people sitting there in the audience and on TV who are going to say, oh my gosh, how rude is he to that poor woman and her baby. See, he really does hate women after all. I need to vote for Hillary. And I know it takes a little bit more thought than that to get him to the Hillary side, just a little bit more thought. But it can happen, and we don't need mistakes like that. We really don't. We don't need people who sit there. And see, a lot of people just thought, oh, that's just Donald. Other people thought, oh, that's kind of rude, but let me see what's happening. And other people listened to what the mother had to say. I guarantee you that about, 5 or 10% heard what the mother had to say, and 80 to 90% saw what Donald Trump had to say. So it could have really hurt him. And that's just one example. There are many, many others. And when you put them all together, it's not favorable for him. Because see, with the DNC and the Democrats, progressive left, they always have this image that everything is just great within the party. You know how that is. You've seen that family where it looks perfect on the outside, but on the inside, these people can't stand each other, and they do everything they can to stab each other in the back, and they talk behind each other's backs, things like that. But when you bring it out into the public arena, then the public can make its own interpretation, and sometimes it's not favorable. But with the Democrats, it looks so great. And for those people who don't really watch the news that often, who get their news from the mainstream media, who are being, shown Clinton bias, but they have no idea that it's Hillary bias, they have no idea. They think, oh, well, this is just the news. This is what's truthful. And it's really not. But they're not going to know that. And they're going to look at the images they see. They're going to look at the 30-second clips that they see. Whether it's bad or good, that's the impression that they're going to be left with. And I think that, these mainstream media types, they're going to give Donald Trump all the negative media, and they're going to give Hillary all the great media. And finally, I can say, and I can't believe I'm saying this because this is one thing that I do hate about the Obama administration, and that is, Mr. Trump, stick to the teleprompter. So it kind of all goes back in a circle. Stay on the teleprompter on a speech that has been prepared for hours, that you have helped prepare, and don't get sidetracked. It's that simple. I think if he does that, his chances of winning have increased. Because I'll tell you something. With Hillary, there's just been a lot recently talking about her health, right? You've seen that. You saw the February 2014 video or scene where she's kind of walking up the steps and kind of helping her. A lot of people are helping her. And people are saying, some people are saying, well, she slipped, or it's wintertime, or, whatever. It wasn't really her health. It was just, they were kind of helping her up the stairs because it was slippery. Who knows if that's true or not? Here's what I will tell you. And I don't think that this video was doctored in any way, photoshopped, or sliced, edited, whatever you want to call it. I don't think so. But it was a video recently where she was talking about healthcare, and you can find it on YouTube. Just go, you'll find tons of them. But she was talking, and she absolutely became disoriented. You could see it. And I wasn't one that got on the bandwagon when all those were going around saying, oh, look at the seizures of Hillary Clinton, and she was looking at the balloons and all that. She's always had, even before she had her injury in 2012, I believe it was, she's always had these weird, exaggerated facial expressions. And I think that's, in a lot of respects, is just her. I think a lot of people do that when they're attention seeking. I've noticed that, right? And I think that's a little bit about why she does what she does. Now, that with her head jerking back and forth and the woman saying something to her, they were asking her a question. Again, I don't know if those were seizures or anything else. I think she has an exaggerated way about her. But listening to that YouTube video that I heard, to me, and watching her, she totally became disoriented. And I do think that there are concerns there that need to be looked into. I don't think she's in the best health. I don't think anybody thinks that she's in the best health. And there's been other speculation about people, and they have to be with her and constantly give her shots. And again, I don't know if any of that is true. I have no way of verifying that. But let's just say there's been a lot of talk about the fact that something is wrong with her health. And yet, nobody's looking into that. No, do you think anybody's going to look into that? They don't care. What they care about is that she wins. Because if she wins, they know that think about it. How much information does WikiLeaks have on Hillary Clinton that they can use against her? Come on. Russia can use against her. Perhaps China. Perhaps people who are working with her in the Democratic Party, you know, with over 30,000 emails and other things, that there's got to be something out there that can be used against her. I think that may be fair to say. And if you can do that, what better thing to do than have her elected, because she'll be easy to manipulate. Donald Trump, I think in some ways he can look like he's being manipulated. Whether or not he can be totally manipulated, I don't know, because we don't know anything about him other than, a businessman being on TV as a reality TV personality. So I don't know what he would be like as president. I don't think he would be as easy to manipulate, but again, I don't know. And I don't know if you saw recently, where he has been talking about Russia. And I think that concerns some people. And I don't know if you know this, but Vladimir Putin hates Hillary Clinton. Hates her to the core, because she made a comment once, and I'm sure this isn't the only thing, but she made a comment that his election was rigged. And maybe she's an expert on that, and maybe she really does know. But anyway, after that, he has hated her and would like nothing more than to see her defeated. And I think she and Obama put a lot of sanctions on them when they went into Crimea and Ukraine and all that. And Donald Trump has said, that he was going to look into lifting those sanctions and recognizing them again and all that, which is the total opposite of what Hillary would do. And the Russians know that. So I don't know if Donald Trump can be manipulated by the Russians. I don't know if the Russians see him as somebody like that, or if they genuinely want to work with him and, for a better Russia and better America. I kind of doubt that third one, but, okay. So I think, we don't have perfect candidates on either one of these people. We really don't. And if you believe they're perfect, then you're fooling yourself, even if you are a staunch Trump supporter. I'm not saying he is at the level that Hillary is. I was going to say rise to the level, but I'd have to say lowers himself to the level that Hillary's on. But again, you don't know everything about Trump because he's never been in this position before. So I think you have to kind of try to keep an open mind about some of his issues and some of the things that really we need to look out for should he be elected, and even some of the things that we need to look out for now in the event that you want him elected. Because if any of these polls are correct, then he's in trouble. And he needs to do something else. And again, I've laid out that strategy in my article. If you go to the Blaze and look for my article there, and you can look under Susan Knowles under the contributors section. The article is, Can Donald Trump be taught some new tricks to avoid the less dangerous trap, or something of that title. I can't remember exactly it was late last night when I wrote that article, but you'll find it. And then another thing that we know that Donald Trump, whether he's really in trouble or not in this election, we have to look at what's happening with the independent candidate that's coming along. We're hearing in the media, and again, you can take everything with a grain of salt that you hear in the media, but we're hearing that, Trump's in trouble. We don't want this guy to be president. He can't be fit. We've recently had people like Susan Collins in Maine, that big name. Everybody knows her, right? But he's come out and said, I'm not voting for Trump. We've also had the 50 Republican national security experts who have come forward and saying Trump lacks character, values, and experience to be president. All of those people. And you may say, yeah, well, they were brought forward by Hillary. Well, then that may be true. It doesn't really matter who brought them forward. The fact is that they're here and they're making noise. And we're even, talking about Mitt Romney again. Well, let's tap Mitt Romney. Maybe he can come back. That's been a while, but now there's talk again. Well, Mitt Romney lost in the first place. I don't think Mitt Romney is going to win again, and when he lost before. Okay, so let's leave Mitt out of the conversation, shall we? But then we have this new guy, Evan McMullin, and he's kind of hard to figure out what this guy is really all about. You know, what does he hope to achieve by all of this? You know, he came out recently and said that he said, "I believe that our country is at an important point in our history, and the decisions we make over the next year will drive, of course, the direction that our country takes." He said that in a lecture. And he's never held public office, but his mother has been. They made a point of saying his mother's been in local government. Well, that's great. He previously advised the House Committee on Foreign Affairs on national security issues and was the chief policy director with the House Republican Conference. And he spent more than 10 years as an undercover operations officer with the CIA's National Clandestine Service, including posts in Africa, the Middle East, and Asia. So he's got a really good background when you first look at it. And it's like, wow, okay, maybe we should listen to this guy. He's kind of like, like a Dan Bongino type. He's got a background that's, Dan was a Secret Service agent. He was also a police officer. So you listen to people like that because they've been in the middle of things. They've gone where you and I haven't gone. They've been in the know, right? They've been accepted in that crowd, so they kind of know what's going on, even though they may not be a part of the crowd. I don't think Dan Bongino is a part of that crowd. And I think, again, here's my plug for Dan this week. Vote for him in Florida if you can, okay? I think Dan is a decent man, and I think his motives are honest and truthful and where they should be, and he would be a real asset to this country in any position that he held in political office. So get out there, Florida. Vote for Dan Bongino. But back to McMullin. It's odd, too, that, in the very beginning, before everything happened, he had his Twitter account. I think he had about 135 people or something. Now, last time I looked, it was over 30,000, of course, because he immediately got notoriety. And the thing I think that concerns me the most, here are a couple of things that I found out about him. He's got a real interest in the Syrian civil war. And his profile talked about a disappointment with the United States' response to the conflict. And he also, here's the one thing that, even if I wanted to vote for him, this would prevent me from doing so. Because I have very clear opinions about certain things, and this is one of them. In 2001, it says that McMullin worked as a volunteer. I know he's just a volunteer, but okay. He worked as a volunteer for the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees in the Office of Refugee Resettlement, where it was part of his responsibilities, it says, to vet and process UN-recognized refugees from the Middle East and Africa for resettlement to third countries. Okay. Well, I feel better that he sent them to third countries, and I know with his background, where he worked in the Middle East and all that, in Africa, that he would have some knowledge of the people there and what to kind of look for. But at the same time, what stops me is the fact that he would have done this for the UN. I know that's just my bias, but if you work for the UN, my radar's up and we're done. I can't even go there. But the other thing that he said was, and this is a quote from him, "People who talk tough about ISIS but then spend all of their time attacking refugees know little about keeping America safe." And he wrote that in January during a Republican debate. So, I don't know. I think he's a little bit too much left-leaning for me, and maybe he isn't, but that comes across, and just that what I read is a little bit too much for me to want to even look at him seriously. And I also think that he's going to have a hard time. Again, he may be a great guy. I don't know. But why now? Why are you coming out now? Why didn't you come out before? If you're so, feeling that the United States was in trouble, that we really needed to have you as a leader, why are you waiting till the last couple of months? It really makes me suspicious of his motives. Is it just so that Hillary will win because people will vote for him and split the vote? Is that it? I don't know. And again, it's going to be what it's going to be. People are going to vote for whomever they want to vote for, and they should. You still have a right in this country to vote for whomever you want. And I know people don't like to hear that, but that's just the way it is. And if Donald Trump could just do a better job, he might win some people over. And by better job, I mean you got to just stick to the program, Donald. Stick to the program. So we'll see what happens as it gets closer to time. If Evan McMullin is just, shot in the dark, fly by night, here today, gone tomorrow type guy, or if he's going to stick around, how much traction he's going to get. At the moment, I don't know enough about him to want to spend any more time on him, because I don't know if he's from somebody on the Hillary side that just put him in to split the vote, or if he's a genuine person who feels that this is what he needs to do. I don't know at this point. And I don't think anybody else knows. I don't think the media knows. I don't think they know enough about him. But again, my hesitation about him is the fact that he had anything to do with UN. And I wouldn't even consider him further, to be honest with you, at that point. And unless there was something I don't know, and that maybe was, some particular reason he did that really sounds better than what it really does sound to me right now. So we'll see. And I think you also may have heard that the parents of two of the parents of the men that were killed in Benghazi have filed a lawsuit for wrongful death against Hillary Clinton. And I think that's great. I hope that lawsuit goes forward and does well. Against the Hillary machine, it's doubtful, to be honest with you. I don't know if it's something, though, that Hillary would want to just sweep under the rug at this close time to the convention. I mean, she's such a Teflon Hillary that nothing seems to ever stick, so I don't know. She may not even care. She didn't care about Benghazi. She may not care about the lawsuit. But it's a wrongful death action, and they're also suing her for defamation because of the things they claim are defamatory things that she said against them and publicly. And see, they're not public figures, and I'm sure that's what they will argue, that they are public figures. That's what Clinton's attorneys will argue. But it seems like this whole thing with the parents in Benghazi, Hillary could have handled that better, but I don't think she has that compassion. Let me just put it bluntly. I don't think she has that compassion to really even try to make it appear that she cares. I mean, if you can stand over dead bodies and their coffins and lie to their parents and lie to the American public about a video, man, you can do just about anything. And I know I can hear you saying now that's the least of what you do. I understand. I'm just putting this specifically for this one instance with the parents of Benghazi. And to look those people in the eye, to act like we did all that we could, et cetera, it is ridiculous. And I think, again, I don't know how much this is going to help this family, how successful they're going to be on anything, but I know that they feel they have to do something. And God bless them, because I would not want to be in their shoes, having had gone through what they've gone through, knowing that their sons were left there to die, knowing that people knew about the security, knew about other issues that were going on, and left them there. And I don't care what anybody says. As Americans, we don't leave people behind. It's ridiculous. And as we found out, there were people who could have gone in there and helped them. But, I think she went to bed. She was probably tired. Unbelievable. I think you're going to see just so much more coming out of this Hillary campaign before it's over. I mean, I know that you're prepared for it. I really know that you are, because you know who she is. You know the type of person. You know the history of who she is. And I think, again, we're all just kind of looking at each other going, okay, she did this, but why isn't anybody doing anything about it? Goes all the way back again to our Congress, that we keep electing these people that are supposed to represent us but don't. And we just had a primary in Wisconsin. Paul Ryan got, he's in the primaries. So if we can sit here and say it's so horrible, we have these people, we got to get rid of them. But I think the tide, if you will, in America is shifting to where people just either they don't care anymore, or they know about it and they think, well, that's okay. I mean, who cares? I mean, to have Paul Ryan be in the primaries, why? Tell me what great job that Paul Ryan has done. Paul Ryan, who wants to bring in refugees, whether they're vetted or not, who basically sits there and says, if Donald Trump tries to do this with the refugees, I'm going to file a lawsuit. Okay, are you an American, or do you care about America? Do you care about protecting America? If you don't vet people and they come in here and do us harm, I don't care what country they're from. Why would you allow that, Paul Ryan? Why? Why would anybody? And again, the American people are sitting here going, this is not what we want for the majority of people. And I know there are some bleeding hearts out there who think that we have to let anybody in here, or that we should accept all illegals and should be, kumbaya, one happy family. Well, you know what? It just doesn't work that way. That isn't rational. It's not reasonable. It has nothing to do with the people themselves, but the behavior of the people is something that we need to be concerned about, again, regardless of whatever country they come from. And to say we're just going to open up the gates and let everybody in, the floodgates, come on in, no matter who you are, no matter if you have a criminal background or whatever you do, and even the people that we deport with criminal backgrounds, they seem to come right back in. And we're supposed to, welcome them in, put them in a sanctuary city, put them up in a hotel, give them benefits? What are we supposed to do? But again, we hire these people, we put them into office, we elect them, and even the ones that we don't elect are now telling us what to do in the offices that are created by these agencies that are created by these politicians that get in, that we do put in. As I've said so many times before, it starts at the local level. You've got to get these people out right away. Because if you don't, they end up on the Democratic ticket to become president of the United States. I mean, look at Hillary, her rise to fame. She should have been stopped back in New York. But, of course, she had help. She's a Clinton. It's like the Kennedys, for God's sakes. You don't have to start at the bottom like everybody else and work your way up. You start at the top and you just go further. But New Yorkers, no, they wanted Senator Hillary Clinton. And then on the Democratic side, we just wanted to have Obama. Because it would show everybody that we in America are great. That we're diverse and we can have people who aren't qualified. Talk about somebody who's not qualified. How was he qualified to be president? And look what he's done. It's been a disaster. But for 8 years, nobody wanted to talk about it. And for 8 years, the Congress just plays along with it. Gives him every single thing he wants. So we've put these people in power. And we continue to put these people in power every election cycle. And we're starting to reap what we sow at this point. And I say that not in a judgmental way for America. I love America, and I love the Americans that are here, And the people who came here to this country legally and those who are waiting to become American citizens, I love all those people. I really do. And I don't want to see anything bad at all happen to America. But we're in the middle of bad right now. I mean, we've seen bad for the last 8 years. And it's not looking so great right now. We don't have that much farther to go before we're right in the election cycle. We're right there, not in the election cycle, but in their voting. And then we have to worry about, will there be fraud? Will the elections be rigged? I can tell you right now, and you know this as well as I do. Will there be fraud? You betcha. There's been fraud for as long as I can remember. And there will be fraud. And how do we stop that? We can't. We don't. I don't know if we can't so much as we don't, and we won't. And it will happen. And that's why people, some people are saying, well, I'm just going to stay home. Why even vote? If you know that there's fraud, why vote? Well, if you know that there's fraud and you stay at home, then you're guaranteed that the fraud is probably going to win, whoever it is that they're voting for. But if you go out there in record numbers, it's going to make that fraud dissipate. Won't get rid of it, but it'll be less. It'll be reduced. And you have a higher chance of getting who it is that you voted for. I mean, it pains me to say that sentence. It pains me to know that that's where we are right now in this country. I mean, it's sad. And I think a lot of people are saying, I don't even know what's the truth anymore. I don't know who to believe anymore. I'm just not sure that it's even worth it anymore to even participate in what's happening in America, because it seems to all be, a lot of it, all about lies. And unfortunately, I think those people, for the most part, it is fraudulent in a lot of areas in the United States. We're seeing a lot of fraud. We're seeing a lot of things that truly aren't real. And it is hard to tell what is real, what isn't. But I think that you and we need to just make sure that we ourselves don't fall into traps, that we don't immediately believe everything that we hear in the media, that we don't believe everything that we see on TV. And I know this isn't going to be popular, but we can't put our 100% trust and faith in either candidate for president right now. You can't do that, because they are human beings. They are fallible. They lie. I'm sure both of them do. And they can't be trusted 100%. They just can't. So you have to discern what it is that they're saying that resonates with you, sounds true, and go with that, whichever one it is. And I think we get into problems today because we want to look at it as like, if you're a Hillary supporter, you're sitting there going, oh, Hillary would never lie. She's wonderful. She's great. And that's not true, right? You know that. They don't know that. And if you're sitting there as a Donald Trump supporter and you're saying, oh, he's wonderful, he's great, he's going to change America, he's going to do this, that, and the other, he never lies, then you're lying to yourself. Because politicians are not telling you the truth. They're not going to be 100% truthful with you. Politicians, and Donald Trump is one, whether you want to know that or not. He is one now. They're not going to tell you exactly everything that they're going to tell you what you want to hear. It may not be what you want, but it's going to be what you want to hear, right? It may not be the best for you, but it's what you want to hear. That's what they're going to lean towards, whoever they are. And it's been that way forever. And I think that it's that way with Trump and Clinton. Again, they're playing to the majority, and that's what they do. And they're politicians. Is one worse than the other? I think so. But again, as Americans, as human beings, as people who are Judeo-Christians and Christians, you need to just make sure that you're able to discern what is going on as things become more chaotic and more confused in the United States and elsewhere. We're in those times right now. We have to stay focused. We have to make sure we don't fall into traps, okay? So, anyway, thank you so much for being here today. So glad that you could join me. We'll be back again next week for another edition of Knowles on the News. Until then, take care of yourself, be kind to yourself, and God bless you. See you next week.